This is the Take a Step podcast, where we equip young adults to discover their purpose and then take action on building their firm foundation. In this episode, we've got Irving Correa as a guest. Irving is someone who has seen his foundation in health and fitness translate over into every other aspect of his life, with his family, with his faith, with his career, and he shares a lot of those mindsets with us today. So with that said, let's jump straight into this conversation with Irving Correa. What's going on, and welcome to the Take a Step podcast. I'm your host, Josh Johnston, founder of Take a Step. It's a community that's focused on bringing together like-minded individuals who are all purpose-driven towards taking action to maximize their God-given potential. If you find value in this podcast, please leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening. It really helps us to continue to grow this community and change more lives for the better. Feel free to give me a follow on social media at __take a step __, and reach out to me if you have any questions or just want to connect. With that being said, let's dive in. Irving, brother, what's going on? Excited to have you on the Take a Step podcast. I appreciate you taking some time and joining today. How you doing?
Yeah, of course, man. I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. I am doing good. Well, I want to just kind of turn it over to you to get things kicked off. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience however you think it makes sense.
Yeah, so my name's Irving Correa. I'm 27 years old, live here, grew up my whole life in Woodstock, Georgia, married to my high school sweetheart, and I have 4 boys, all under the age of 6. So definitely a ride right now.
Yeah.
Crazy time in my life right now. Yep, I love it. Loving it.
Awesome. Cool. 4 boys under the age of 6 at 27 years old. I can imagine that's a task at hand.
Oh yeah, man. It's definitely a task, and I'm in the midst of running my own agency at the same time. I'm a life insurance broker, so you can only imagine having 4 boys and running my own business at the same time, man. It's definitely a blessing to say the least.
I can imagine. Well, we'll get into the whole work conversation later on. But one thing that I want to get things kicked off with, I know fitness has always been a huge aspect to who you are and with your upbringing. I think you were a wrestler, right? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, man, wrestled practically my whole life. Yep.
Love it. Well, tell me, I'd love to dive in a little bit to just kind of the role fitness has played in your life and just kind of from childhood up until now. I know you've kind of had a an evolution with where you are in your fitness journey. So tell me a little bit about how fitness has shaped you into who you are today.
Yeah, man, fitness is, for me personally, has always been there. I mean, it's been the main thing that I've established a great relationship with my father. That was one of those things where my father would take me and my brother out for running, or having us do our own little wrestling practice in the garage. So up until I was 5 years old, and now when I'm 27 and being able to teach those to my kids, it's been a foundation for me. With wrestling, it's an individual sport, so as well as I do when it comes to sales, it's you're a part of the team, but at the end of the day, it's you versus you and whoever's on the other side of that phone. So with that being the building blocks and carrying that over till now I'm establishing my own business. It's everything that I do, it's relatable to what I've done in my fitness journey, right? So I've done to where working out has been competition based, to transitioning into high school where it was more, bodybuilding, to powerlifting, all that good stuff, curls for the girls kind of deal. and then getting transition to college, still carrying that on. But college actually took a weird turning point, I would say. I stopped competing in wrestling, and because at that point in time, wrestling for me was, I got to work out to wrestle, or I got to work out to compete. That was kind of my whole upbringing within fitness. And I took like a little bit of a dive, I would say, maybe about a year or 2 years, to where I really necessarily didn't work out, didn't really have a goal in mind when I was working out. And that's actually when I dove into my insurance career. And once I dabbled into that a little bit, and I realized, well, dang, everything that I have learned or been taught with fitness, and taking that working out aspect for not just for competition, I could turn this into sales. I can utilize everything that I've learned into sales, talking to everyday people, making connections, etc., and almost treating it almost like a game for myself, right? Almost like hitting certain goal key points, talking to X amount of people, whatever the case is, working out in the fitness world and then having that translate and transition into my work, just in my everyday business. I mean, it's the foundation to everything for me.
Yeah, that's so cool, and I love how you relate it to your work life, because in my opinion, I've always said that my physical health to me is the most there's the most correlation between how I treat my physical health and how that kind of ties into every other aspect of my life, whether that be my work, whether that be my marriage, whether that be my mental health. And mental health, I think, is key, because I think, based on the level of what you put into your physical health is exactly what you're going to get out. And for me, stacking those little wins and choosing to put myself through hard and uncomfortable times willingly through, a hard workout or a tough run, whatever that may be, that those small challenges that we overcome in a workout, our mind takes those as mental victories, and that builds confidence over time. And then that mental health becomes boosted because you're choosing to put yourself through those challenges. I mean, have you seen that play out in your life, both, work and then also personal life?
Oh yeah, exactly, man. I mean, when you and I were speaking, it's stacking up those little wins. I mean, think about when you first wake up and you go hit a hard exercise, or maybe it's a light run, whatever it is. You're starting your day off with little daily wins, right? And it all adds up, and it's going to translate over to your work, or even just, every day, me dealing with my kids, right? You just start walking differently, right? You start speaking differently, and having all those wins. I mean, you've already won the day,
Yeah.
right? The next person you speak to, or your family member, whoever the case is, you just have this different light to you, right? This different shine. Like I said, you just walk differently, and it plays a role. It's for me, it's gotten to the point where I got to get my daily wins in before I start my actual full day, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? I got to get as much wins as I can before 8 a.m. before I can start, giving my energy to my family, my friends, my work, whatever the case is, because now I'm actually able to be present with them, right? Actually able to give them 100%. I almost treat it like a warm up per se, right? You're in the gym, you got to do a 5, 10, 20 minute warm up before you start, bench pressing 315, whatever the case is, right? You
Yeah.
can't just go in benching 315, right? So I almost treat it like that way as well, right? I'm not going to get on the phone and start making $1 million without doing the prep work. I'm not going to go and, go to the park and spend the time with my kids if I didn't, wake up that morning and get my daily wins in, right? To be fully present with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, you can take talking about getting your daily wins in ahead of time before 8 a.m., for example. I look at it as what I've always said is we are guaranteed to go through hard and uncomfortable times, and we're going to face challenges. We're going to face adversity, especially, when we get into, talking about sales, talking about building your own agency. You're going to get told no 10x the times you'll get told yes, and that's if you're good.
Yeah.
And if you can willingly put yourself through a challenge and overcome that challenge, then I'm going to handle those no's a lot better and with a lot more, with a lot more, I'll be able to hold my head a lot higher through those no's because I've already put myself through a challenging time earlier that day. And
Exactly.
I've kind of built up those calluses mentally because I can overcome those challenges then. So when challenges get thrown my way that I don't choose, I can handle those a lot better.
Oh yeah, man. 100%. 100.
Mm-hmm.
But like I guess it's you're almost prepping for battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
in a
Yeah.
in a work sense, but taking it back to the family sense, it's I got little ones, right? There's on the age of 6, so there's going to be crying, there's going to be fighting, there's going to be hey, they're going to have their own struggles, right? And I got to be prepped for that. I got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be prepared to, still learning how to navigate, right? Don't know exactly what to say per se, but at least I know I can go in there confidently and tell my son, hey, son, it's okay. Get up and try to do it again. For instance, like I was trying to teach him how to ride his bike 2 weeks ago before we went to the beach, and actually we rented out a couple bikes to ride on the beach, and he just started riding. He just started riding, and I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, well, if I didn't go get up that morning, right, and go through my own struggle that morning, right, cranking out a hard workout, uh, getting told no a handful of times because I worked a little bit before him and I went out to the park and actually had my alone time with him, and he had fallen down a couple of times. I was so confident, not only just that the things that I was actually saying, you'd be surprised out of all those things that you've already had gone through that morning, those hard struggles, it translates into everything that you do, even with your own family, your own kids,
Mm-hmm.
whether we like to think it or not.
Yeah. Do you, honest question, do you ever struggle with practicing what you preach when it comes to how you try to set that example for your kids and saying, hey, get back up, try to get me, you told no? Because I know for me, when because I do some coaching as well, and when I, talk with guys about, how to actually live out and build out this system and act on it, I know personally I'll go back home and have the same struggles sometimes that I'm even telling my guys about, and trying to, help them through. And I can imagine that's only, that much greater when you're talking about that relationship with your kids rather than relationship with a client. So do you struggle with
Yep.
that whole aspect of practicing what you preach?
Oh yeah, man, like 100%. I feel as though any great leader, right, goes through those struggles whether they show it or not, right? But internally, I'm going through it, right? I'm going through it just like you're going through it. But the thing is I'm able to stop it in its tracks before it gets to a point of no return, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if I'm telling my son or telling a client X, Y, and Z, or telling one of my agents, hey, you should be dialing certain times, and then I sit back in my chair and on my phone instead of dialing, scrolling through for 30 minutes at a time, I scroll for maybe 30 seconds and I stop myself and went, hold on a second, what am I doing right now? I'm not practicing what I preach, and I internally deal with my own struggles as well. But at the end of the day, what allows me to, keep perceiving, keep moving forward are those daily deposits, like,
Mm.
right? And being able to have almost like those bookends, right? I call them bookends, where how you start your morning, you gotta end your day at a certain point in time and have a self-reflection almost, right? On how your day
Mm.
went, what went well, what could have been better, etc., and pre-plan for the next day, right?
Mm.
And still make those daily deposits to try and be better each and every day. I mean, it's a you versus you battle up until the day you pass. It will always be that way, right?
Yeah.
But you get to wake up every single morning and decide what is it that you're going to do better? What is it that you're going to take a step forward, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to be better? And because we go through all those struggles, actually, you know, I guess I would say makes us more, um, what's the word I'm looking for? So I'm losing my train of thought here, but it,
You're
it
good.
allows us to be able to teach people how to overcome those struggles because we're also going through it.
Mm.
Us knowing a little bit can go a long way for the next person behind us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's all about. I would always have to think that I would have to know a million things before I teach somebody, when in reality I don't.
Yeah, it's that, and I love that argument when you get into the world of education. Like a lot of people are very like the world. Like let's take college for example. Like there's a lot of theory based knowledge and theory based learning in the college space right now, and academia as a whole. And I think whenever you can get the dose of practical application or the dose of experience over theory, I think that's what you're kind of relating to is, hey, I can tell you this because I've been there, because I've put myself through this, because I faced how not to do it and learned how to do it and put that into action. So I'm not telling you something based off of something that I read or learned in a book or someone taught me. I'm teaching based off experience that I've gained because I've put myself out there and I've taken the action and learned from it.
Yeah, exactly. Taking action. That
Yeah.
right there is the biggest thing. It's
Hmm.
because we're going through those experiences and taking certain actions, and we see the response from it, right? We see the background of it and what happens, and we're able to tell people about it. Hey, you
Yeah.
do X, Y, and Z, this is probably going to happen, right? So do this instead.
Yeah, and I put a post out on social media. I think it was last week, but one of my favorite sayings that I've really clung to here recently is don't confuse knowledge for action, or don't confuse content consumption, whether if it's valuable content or horrible content. So many people will, get caught on a rabbit trail of content consumption, things that are actually very beneficial for them, and they'll feel like they're doing something. They're not doing anything. They may have a little bit better knowledge, but they haven't actually done anything yet. Until you actually take that action, that's where the real learning starts to take place. But a lot of people will get caught, whether if it's, on social media, whoever they follow, they could be great people to follow, having, teaching great information or reading great books or listening to great podcasts. All those things are beneficial, but if that's all you ever do and you get caught just doing that, then there's no action because of that. So I always tell people, I'm like, after you consume something great, like the next question you should ask yourself is, how can I take what I just learned, and what's the first step I can take to apply what I've just learned in my life?
Exactly, man. I mean, that, of course, this day and age of social media, it's nuts. So I feel like there's a lot more of it. I mean, even my father, he would tell me way back when growing up, yeah, you can learn all you want. Doesn't matter. You can sit here and study for a whole week. My dad was a plumber, right? And he failed a million times. Without failing a million times, he wouldn't be the master plumber that he was. And he would tell me the same stuff. Like, yo, you can sit here and study for a whole week, but somebody who is failing failing all those 7 days versus you just learning those 7 days, that person's going to go further than you because you haven't applied anything that you learned.
Yeah.
So
was he he owned his own business, right? Or did he work for a company?
Yeah. So he worked for his own, he worked for a couple companies before he branched out and did his own thing.
How old were you when he branched out and did his own thing?
Let's see here. I was probably 14 years old when he branched out and did his own thing.
I feel like for me, like at that age would be so cool to like see my dad like actually take that step out and start to navigate these challenges on his own, because that would shape a lot of my mindset and how I viewed entrepreneurship and taking risks. How did you take that going through kind of that? I mean, it was at the very beginning of your high school journey. So as you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do with your life, did that step that your dad took kind of have an effect on you?
Oh, dude, 100%. I mean, it was in a weird transition there. He actually, funny story about how he even started to do his own thing. He got caught doing side jobs because it was one of those things where, if you're working underneath a big company, you weren't allowed to use the company truck to go do, side work. And he left receipts in the truck. Next thing you know, he got let go. But he instead of being upset about it, he looked at my mom and was like, I'm going to go buy my own truck. And he did. And that right there alone was like, whoa, what the heck? Like, well, what's going to happen to us? Because, we lived a pretty, comfortable life up at that point. And so, yeah, there was a little bit of a drawback when it comes to income, but my dad had a vision he had the vision before that, but that was kind of like the push that he needed. That, no, I already know what to do. I have X amount of clients, customers, whatever. I know exactly what I need to do. And he took that big step, that leap of faith and the confidence that he had in himself to do his own thing. And for me being 14 years old, seeing that, again, still wrestling, I was getting into football and track at that point in time too. I can correlate it with all that, right? Trying a new sport and things like that. But he took me every summer with him to go work with him. And I actually saw the back end of the things that he needed to do to acquire more customers, right? Him being his own boss now, right? In between jobs, he would go to random neighborhoods and leave out flyers while he's going to his next job. I mean, talk about a person who literally just went 0 to 100 with his own business because he knew what it took, right? Yes, he worked the long hours. Yes, and that's the thing I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs forget is it sounds cool to be an entrepreneur until you're really trying to grow a successful business.
Yep.
You got to have those long hours. And so me brand new to it, my dad's a own business owner, this and that. But little did they know he was working 16-hour days, 16-hour days, working from sun up to sundown, trying to grow his business because you have to go through that hustle phase. There's no way around it. You have to go through it. And transitioning now I'm older, I took the leap of faith myself as well. And just remembering exactly all those little nuggets that my dad told me, the things and experience that I have seen him do. I mean, it's right there in front of me. But now that I have that knowledge and experience that I got to, ride alongside him, Now I can just incorporate it and do it my own way, right? So
Mm,
it's taking that long knowledge and experience that you have and making it work for you, because every industry is different. Our experiences are different. The timeline that we're going through is completely different from our parents, right? So
mm,
being adaptive, that's huge. That's probably the biggest thing I would say that he taught me, was you have to be adaptive, right? You got to be able to adapt with times, because technology is just skyrocketing, and if we fail to ignore it, then we're going to be left behind.
yeah, yeah. That ability to adapt, I think, is one of the biggest traits um, that anyone can learn, and that comes, like, to echo what we've been saying, that comes with putting yourself through adversity, knowing how to handle failure and how to look for the solution to that, and that comes with being able to adapt. So that's so cool, like seeing how your dad kind of made that pivot and kind of took that step out, because I know that's a lot of those same mindsets that you probably picked up on at a young age you're now using in what you're currently doing. Because I want to kind of transition to that. So you're building your own agency now, and I know that's fun, stressful, everything in between. So tell me a little bit about what you're building now, and I just kind of want to hear a little bit more about it from your perspective.
Yeah, so again, I'm a life insurance broker. Actually transitioning to adding health too. So that's some fun stuff that I'll be getting into here in the next few months. But yeah, right now I have 5 agents underneath me, and what I'm trying to do right now is to grow a massive remote agency. Right, being able to help other fathers like myself, not even just fathers, anybody, right? Being able to not only just make six figures working remotely, but utilizing this life insurance as a platform to live a purposeful life, whatever that looks like for you, right? Because we all know, I mean, insurance isn't one of those things, or at least it wasn't for me. It wasn't number one on my list to be, right? I didn't grow up wanting to be a life insurance agent. I mean,
Mm,
I had all aspirations to join the family business of being a plumber. Well, that fell short. Me and my dad butt heads too much. We were too much alike, and we made an agreement that we were better off as family than business partners.
yep.
And so, kind of left me at a loss per se, right? Kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. Went to college, kind of blew a couple years, when in reality, um, what I wanted to do was, now that I have 4 kiddos, is I want to establish my own disability foundation. Don't know exactly yet what disability per se. It might be a general, just general disability, but have me and my wife run it, right? That's what I mean by living a purposeful life, right?
Mm,
Everybody's chasing the dollar signs. Everybody's chasing $1 million. Everybody thinks that you got to have $1 million to live free, right? I don't. So my whole purpose of running my own remote agency is helping as many guys as I can make those six figures, but then dive deeper into that, right?
yeah.
Dive deeper more into the mind, dive deeper more into the faith component, because that's very important to me, right? That's my number one pillar, right? I have 4 pillars that I live by now, and faith is number one. It's a foundation, right? Of course, money, you have to have money to be able to do certain things, and so let's figure out how we can make six figures. That way, you can really focus on what it is that you really want to do, and how can we give back to other people, whether
Mm,
that's helping like-minded individuals, helping other men, or just helping kiddos, whatever that looks like for you. That's my ultimate goal, ultimate purpose, is to find and help as many dads, as many guys live a purposeful life.
yeah. So how did you come to the realization that life insurance was the path for you?
Um, Funny story about life insurance for me. Whenever I was having my first son, he's 6 years old. He'll be 7 in October. Uh, it was kind of on freak out mode, right?
Mm,
I had just dropped out of college, and my wife was working, and I was working at a random gym, working making $12 an hour. So I was online on Google figuring out what's the quickest way to make six figures, because that's what I thought in my head. Hey, I
yeah.
got to make money. I got to make money fast. And obviously, sales kept popping up. Sales kept popping up, and insurance was like the number one on the list every single time I typed up sales. And so I clicked on a random ad. Next thing I know, I'm a licensed insurance agent, and then the rest is history. And so, and I stuck with it. I stuck with it because uh, once I dove into it, luckily I had a good mentor at that time who taught me a lot about the industry. But I see the big need from it. Obviously, everybody has their dislikes against companies. Trust me, I hate insurance companies. So instead of going from, I don't never want to be an insurance agent again, it went to, well, how can I use my knowledge and expertise to help other individuals navigate this insurance world?
Yeah.
And what's allowed me to keep going, right? And then I transitioned to the life insurance piece because I've had my own personal instances with life insurance, right? I mean, most recently, my father passed away last year in August, and he had pancreatic cancer. And without life insurance, my mom probably would have had to sold her house. But luckily, she was able to pay out her entire mortgage. And so, from my cousin having cancer as well 10 years ago, really seeing the need for that life insurance piece, which is the reason why I transitioned to being only a life insurance broker for those specific reasons. And that's why I'm continuing to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can make great money doing it, but continuing to help others navigate this whole insurance world, I mean, that's what's allowing me to keep this going, right? I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life, but again, there's a certain point in time where this is just going to be the foundation to what I'm really trying to do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think it's so cool how you can take those past experiences and that are, most people would take and paint as, 100% negative, but you've been able to take those and use that as motivation for meaning behind why you do what you do in an industry that can get painted such a bad picture. You've been able to take those experiences and use that to motivate you to have, an impact rather than just a monetary return. So I think that's so cool to hear. How long have you been? How long have you been kind of in this mindset of this is the life I want to live based on, from a purpose-driven perspective? Because you spoke a lot about, a purposeful life, whatever that looks like for you. So how long have you had this vision about what your purpose, what that purposeful life looks like for you? Is that something that came about here in the last couple of years, or is it something you've always known as far as having that passion to want to, serve people with disabilities?
So it's always been an idea ever since so I have a son. He's 4 years old, and his Mateo. He has brittle bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea started a little after he was born. And again, but it was just an idea, right? It was, I don't know how to do this, kind of on the back burner. But it was something that has always kind of tugged on me, but really didn't, again, going back to the money point of it. I always felt like, okay, I don't have enough money to start it, or I know I need money, and let me just, I'll get to whenever I get to them when I'm older, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we all know that never happens. And so it wasn't until these past few months where I had a huge shift to what I wanted to do exactly, right? A couple months ago, and you had him on your podcast, John Swarzewski, actually,
Yep.
One of my mentors, great, awesome guy. I love him. Whenever he opened up his gym a few years ago, it was a big turning point in my life, right? Which kind of got the juices flowing a little bit more. But he introduced me to a gentleman named Nick Alfano. And we had a great men's retreat that we had went to a few months ago. And going on that retreat just really opened up my eyes in all aspects of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the most important for me was taking my idea and really establishing a game plan to fully pursue it.
Yeah.
Because I know that at the end of the day is my purpose in life, is to help people, is to help the next person behind me, is to help other men, right? That is my full purpose. And ultimately, yes, my son is a living proof of I would say a miracle, right? We're all miracles. But obviously, I'm going to put him more of a miracle just because, someone who has his kind of condition really shouldn't be living right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a condition what he has is very fragile. He can break very easily. And so it's a no-brainer for me to try to help other individuals, other kids, other babies with the same kind of condition that he has. Not just that, but other disabilities in general, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my purpose in this world that I've come to realize, and I know that we all should, we all feel like we should be helping one another, but when it really comes to reality, it just hits different, right? It hits a lot differently, and kind of going back to what we're saying, you start moving differently, walking differently, chest up higher, not in a cockiness perspective, but confidence, knowing that everything that you're doing, everything that I'm doing has a purpose, and it's bigger than me.
Mm, very cool. Yeah, it's cool to hear how you've kind of taken that mindset and shifted it towards, putting a clear plan behind, what that purpose is. How would you say before you had that clear plan, what was your mindset at with how you were going to get to that point? Because I know that's a big piece that so many
Yep.
people take forever, if they even ever make a plan, is making that plan. Because
Yep.
so many people have this idea, and I think a lot of people mistake good ideas for goals. There's no
Yep.
specifics or measurables behind what those goals are. And in order to establish a clear plan, you need to have clear goals. Because how can you create a plan to a finish line that you don't even know exists? So
Exactly.
for you, where were you at before you made that clear plan with this purpose that you have?
Honestly, it was just goals, kind of like exactly what you're saying, just written on a piece of paper, but with no clear plan, no clear, daily deposits, right? There's no
Mm,
clear actual guideline mapped out per se as to how I'm going to accomplish it. So it was always just an idea, always just a goal, and that's about it. I would always just think, oh, I have to make X amount before I can start actually really pursuing that.
mm,
When in reality, you don't, right?
yeah,
You got to take the biggest thing, like you and I keep saying and reiterating, because it's honestly it's the biggest component is taking an actual action step.
yeah,
Without taking a actual step, it's it's never going to happen. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just not, unless you just get lucky, right? Luck, sometimes there is luck into it for sure, right? But the mass majority of us, right, mass majority of people, you're not going to get anything out of this life, yet alone accomplish your goals without taking an action step, without taking a first step.
mm, yeah.
I,
So for you, what are some of the nearsighted goals that you have to get to that? Like, what are you working towards in the now, in the present? Like, what's that next small step that you need to achieve in order to get to that big goal that you have?
oh man. So the next, I would say, like the closest next first step is acquiring more agents underneath me, right? More
Hmm.
like-minded agents, right?
Hmm.
Because with like any other business, right? The more people I have underneath me, kind of helping me with business, the more I can have time, right? That's the biggest thing, is being able to have enough time to do it, um, and getting my wife to a point where she can retire and she can actually focus on that foundation that we're wanting to establish, right? And so that for me is the first next big step. And I'm already on my well. I actually have actually a handful of appointments after we get off the phone call here with potential new agents to get underneath me. And so I'm so excited for it. And all these agents who I'm speaking to, I tell them about what my goal is,
Very
right?
cool.
Because I want like-minded individuals I want to run with them. I want to help them, but I also want them to know who they're having as a leader as well,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, I don't care about having 100 agents, 50 agents. I don't need that, right? All I need is 5, 10 solid agents, like-minded people who are willing to take this journey alongside me.
Hmm. So what's your path? What's your path to get out in front of these agents and actually like establish that connection so you can go about acquiring them?
Oh man, you already know it's content,
Hmm.
right? So it's content, right? Especially because I'm trying to run a remote agency. Come to a realization, I don't need a brick and mortar, right? This day and age, we don't need it. Yes, it'd be nice to have one, but a whole remote agency, right? And my whole reasoning behind that is because, like I said, the pillars, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance is what I go by, right? Faith's important, family, fitness, and then finance. I want this to work around everybody's schedule, right? This whole piece with working finance is last on the pillar. It's very important, but that's why I want to work remotely, because working remotely, you can be very flexible and, do X, Y, and Z, making sure, you're going to your kids' basketball games, whatever the case is, without having to, clock in and clock out, none of that stuff. Right. And so with the whole content side and with being remote, I got to produce more marketing, right? More, so videos, reels, etc. And I actually just bought a whole tripod, a whole ring light too, little microphones as well, about to start shooting content.
Nice.
Um, because with remote agents, I have to be able to produce myself out there, right? Really market myself.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that steps into the whole conversation that I nerd out about is, personal brand,
Hmm.
what that brand promotion looks like, whether if that's, all forms of social media, podcasts, just being out in front where the attention is. There's a book I really want to read. I mean, I'm sure you know who Gary Vee is.
Hmm.
But he just wrote a book called Day Trading Attention, and from what I've heard about, it's essentially, where he always says attention is the most valuable asset, because that's where all the eyeballs are. So why would you not want to be in front of
Yep,
where the most eyeballs are on a consistent basis? And that's kind of,
exactly.
it sounds like that's kind of where you're taking that next step, is getting in front of where the attention is so that you can start to acquire those agents, which is that next step to get to where that ultimate purpose-filled life is.
Exactly. It's how many eyeballs can you have on you, right?
Yeah.
That's it in the whole marketing aspect. And I know that, right? Which is
Mm.
why I gotta dive deep into the whole Instagram, the whole Reels, podcast, whatever the case is,
Yeah.
and really brand myself, right?
Yeah.
And it's nice having the confidence, knowing what my purpose is. That way, it comes easy. Before it was almost like nervousness. Oh, what is this person going to think of me? What
For
is,
sure.
my best friend or family? I don't care anymore because I know what my goals are. I know what my purpose is, and you're either going to ride with me or not, and that's a-okay. That's
Hmm.
completely. I know that there are people out there who will resonate with me, and who, um, at the end of the day, we're going to be doing business with one another, right?
Yeah.
Whether I'm really working with somebody or just being a helpful, I want people to be able to come to me. I could just be a resource for them as well,
Hmm.
right? Maybe they might see a clip and get a few nuggets, and that's fine. I want that, right? If I can help you in any shape, way, or form, whatever, allow you to advance your life just by that much, right? Have you get one little win that day? Awesome,
Yeah.
right?
And dude, I resonate so much with that operating out of fear once you get started. Like, I remember when I first started my first piece of content behind Take a Step. I created a little Instagram page, and I was so scared to like put something on my personal story to have like everyone I know see what I'm working on.
Hmm.
And I just remember that so well, and I remember I was so terrified for people to kind of realize that I was like trying to put myself out there, because I know people that I know are going to be like, who's this guy trying to be some influencer? Like, what's he trying to do? But at the end of the day, like, the, I have a passion, and that I was sick of not pursuing that passion, and I was ready to say, you know what, I know I'm gonna catch some heat, and people are gonna talk and say what they want, but at the end of the day, I have an identity. I know where my identity rests, and because of that identity, I have my purpose. And I would be doing myself and the world a disservice if I don't step
Hmm.
out and take that step, on trying to fulfill that purpose. So I resonate with that, idea of putting yourself out there because of the fear of others. So for you, are you planning on like establishing a brand new like account, a brand new brand, or are you going to kind of build off of the personal channels you have right now?
So right now, personal channels. So
Okay.
once I get to a point where I have 10 agents, I will do a whole separate, agency page, things like that. But no, right now, just me. I mean, I need people to know who I am, what I do, right? Yes, the insurance aspect, but you know, but also the things that I'm trying to do too. I'm the brand, right? So I need to brand myself. That's the route that I'm doing. because ultimately people are buying from me, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
not buying from the name per se. And agents, I want them to work for, because of who I am, not because of the umbrella I'm underneath,
Yeah.
you know, and utilize, myself as the whole platform. Right.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, yes, I'll do and I still might just establish it just to have, because, it is nice having another page to be able to, maybe have leads funnel through, etc. Like a landing page, that'd be pretty cool. And I know it's important to have too. But as far as most of the marketing, things like that, all me, because my whole deal, yes, I am the insurance guy, but at the same time, more than that, you know, like I said, I want to help other men. I want to help other individuals, not just on the finance side, but just overall life. I mean, figure out what that purpose is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I know generational wealth, that's kind of like my thing, is teaching people how to create generational wealth. But in reality, I mean, your health is more important than that. Like let's go ahead and switch the focus to generational health rather than wealth. Because without the generational health, the wealth is not coming. It's just not. In the insurance world, I mean, if you're too unhealthy, you can't get the best policies. You can't really start that wealth per se, right? And you're very limited. Maybe your life expectancy has gone from 80 to now 45 because now you got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or whatever the case is, right? And not putting your health first, it's so huge. And so that that's my going to be my pursue in this transition, is trying to educate folks like, yes, generational wealth is important, but okay, let's not focus on that yet. We got to focus on your health first.
Yeah.
Let's get that figured out too. Yes, this is what we want here, but let's figure out this. Because if you're not healthy, we can't even look at that.
Yeah. Dude, that's a great kind of spin-off, generational health over generational wealth.
Oh
That's
yeah.
something that I'll definitely take and use moving forward. Um, cool. And I know, so as you've kind of navigated this path of building out your own agency with four boys under 6 years old, navigating kind of that, still navigating that new family mindset. I'm assuming, and with you mentioned that faith has become a huge pivotal role in your pillars in life. How have you seen your relationship with Christ evolve since you've become a father, start as you've built out this brokerage? How have you seen your faith evolve over this time?
Man, it's evolved. I mean, it's been a whole roller coaster. I mean, I would even date it back to when I was little, right? I grew up, Catholic, and then grew up in a Catholic household, to going off to college, kind of just not practicing my faith at all whatsoever. We all go through that phase, right? Phasing out per se of not
Mm,
practicing faith, and really didn't. Like, I believed in God, right? But I didn't know him. I didn't know Jesus. I didn't have a relationship. I didn't honestly. It was just one of those things where, hey, okay, I prayed. Now, yeah, I hope something good comes from it,
mm,
right? To We're having kids, knowing that I should teach it to my children, still didn't teach it because I wasn't confident with my own relationship with them, right? To now recently going through the whole men's retreat that I had went on, um, that I can't put any much emphasis how big of a pivotal role that alone has been for me, because it's allowed me to be comfortable to ask questions. It's allowed me to actually want to grow a relationship, with Jesus, and to really take a step back and to take it all in and just know, like, man, he's all around us, right? He's
mm.
all around me. He's in my kids. He's in me. He's in my wife. When I hug my wife, I'm hugging him. When I'm hugging my kids, I'm hugging him, right? And so that whole transition and just being okay to be confused, right, has been such a weight off my shoulders per se, right? Because being confused, things like that, that's me personally, has been a something that's kind of prevented me to, I guess, wanting to know more, right? Almost like
Mm.
being scared, being fearful, to where no, I'm asking everybody questions, my friends, my mom. I mean, it's just my mom was even taken back, like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, we don't talk about those things, we never have to. Now, her and I are having conversations about these things. And it's allowed me to be able to talk to my kids about it, right?
Yeah.
Again, even though I know this much, they don't know anything, right? So now we went from, hey, bedtime, it's go to bed, lights out, call it a night, put little bedtime music on, to praying together, right? Me praying to them, even making a little funny story out of it, or reading a book, right? About a devotional,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're taking it in, and I'm in a big understanding to where I need to keep doing this, not only just for myself, but for my kids too, where they're going to grow up and develop those habits, all those things that I have instilled into them. And being able to have a base is so important, right? Like I had that base sort of kind of. It was just always a whole roller coaster, and it
Yeah.
will, and it'll continue to be so. But now I have a foundation that I'm now able to grow from, right? And it's so awesome that I get to take my family along this ride with me, right? Because I get to talk to them about it. I get to have open conversations with my wife about it, and never have I ever thought I would have had those conversations. I just, again, it was one of those things for me where I don't know, I get goosebumps every time we mention it. Let's just not talk about it too. No, I want to hear all about it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's so cool because you mentioned how that switch for you was how you perceived confusion behind your faith. It's like confusion kind of pushed you away, but then once you like really took that step, you're like, no, I'm going to use this confusion to dig a little deeper. And for
Hmm.
me, I attribute I had a similar mindset, but I attribute it more to doubt. Like
Yeah.
I had like there were doubts I had. I was always a believer, but I always had doubts, and that kind of kept me from digging a little deeper because I was scared to put myself out there in conversations, fearful that I didn't know all the right things to say, and I didn't want to get proven wrong. To now, I see that doubt as, I think there's 100% like a healthy level of doubt to have, because it causes you to dig a little deeper and to try
Hmm.
to try to seek and understand, so you can build that foundation and have that knowledge. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you learn, right? And
Oh
that's kind of what
yeah,
I've
yeah,
clung to for the past few years, and it's been so impactful for me.
yeah. I mean, dude, 100%. I mean, that goes along with just taking that step, right? Or maybe not knowing you know the the handbook from
Yeah.
forward to back, and not knowing how to fix the toilet just yet, but just going out there and just doing it. I mean, I relate it back to exactly what you just said, because a lot of times I would go to men's group or whatever kind of social setting, and people would be talking about whatever Bible verse, and I would be like, I'm not
Yeah.
even going to say anything because I don't even know what that is, and but I'd be confused, or almost fearful, because I didn't want to open my mouth, and then they look at me and say, oh, but again, that's me putting a self thought out there, when in reality people are willing to help you,
Mm.
right? You're going to make mistakes. It's okay not to know, because that's when you're going to learn, right? And same thing goes with that. I mean, people are more than willing to talk about the verse, break it down for you, give a different perspective on it, which is so cool. And it's cool hearing different perspectives, because it's important, right? And then for you to develop your own perspective on it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of relates really well to kind of the question I like to ask to kind of wrap up a lot of the episodes is when I created Take a Step, I created it out of the thought process that one of the things I hate the most is when people get trapped because they've fallen into a system because they felt like that's what they're supposed to do without any sort
Hmm.
of purpose behind what they're actually doing. And
Yep.
one day a lot of people wake up and they say, I feel stuck because I'm doing something that I don't enjoy, that I felt like this is what I was always told was the path I was supposed to take. But I never actually made the decision for myself. It was because of, what I thought I was supposed to do and falling in line with the system. So my question that I love to ask is what do you think keeps people from taking action on living a life that they actually desire and want to live?
I used to go back and forth on this, but I truly believe that the biggest thing is us keeping quiet. So what I mean by that is not telling anybody, or even your family. You got to tell somebody,
Mm,
because it's one of those things where once you speak it, you're more than likely going to, you're not more than the likelihood of you actually taking that step goes a little bit further, right? And then what's the next, writing it down, etc. Right? So for me, it's you gotta say it. You gotta say it out loud. Well, if you don't have anybody to talk to, look at yourself in the mirror and say that idea, because now it kind of becomes a little bit more real. Oftentimes, like, I mean, think about how many ideas that you have running through your head, but if you just sit back or don't do anything, it's never going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you don't talk to somebody about it, if you don't tell anybody, if you don't say it out loud, I mean, there'll be oftentimes, again, I work from home where, and my wife actually, she has a whole nail salon that's literally right underneath me. And oftentimes she'll text me saying, "Are you okay?" Because I would blurt out an idea really loud. And she'd be like, "What?" She'd send me a text like, "What are you doing up there?" But I would say it because, I don't have anybody next to me to tell my idea to.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, aha, really, whatever the case is. And just doing that alone, I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of people are, stuck in their own minds, stuck, you are in your own way, right? And these ideas will always be ideas until you say it, until you write it down, and until you take that first step. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I
it's
think voicing that that vision and like what you actually desire, I feel like that's the first step to actually believing that as well, to believing that that's
oh
possible.
yeah,
Because I think a
yeah,
ton of people, if they do say anything, they say it very small. Like they
yeah,
may have a big dream, a big vision, but they'll say something just a little bit dialed back from what they really, really want, because they feel like if they say what they really want, they'll get laughed at. People will say, "Oh, why do you like that's not you? Like that like
hmm,
you people like you don't do things like that."
yep,
But actually, like setting aside whatever fear you have, fear of others, fear of failure, fear of, never actually getting started, whatever that fear is, setting that aside and vocalizing. I've never heard it put that way. It's like we keep
yeah,
quiet. We keep quiet because we don't want to make known what it truly is that we want to do. And because of that, we
hmm,
never take action on it. I love
exactly,
that answer.
dude. 100%. I mean, for example, I'm gonna use my oldest son on the bike.
Hmm.
Again, he just barely started riding it this past week when we were at the beach. Before that, he crashed and burned so many times. I
Hmm.
mean, I literally started telling him to say, "I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this." And at first he was whispering it, and I said, "No, yell it. You can do it. I know you can do it. Just say it. Keep saying it to yourself." And then he started riding his bike. Even little kids, even when we were young, up until now, as we're growing and getting older, like vocalizing, it's just it's so huge. It's much bigger than what we think,
Hmm.
right? Vocalizing your opinion, vocalizing whatever goal that you have in mind, vocalizing what is that you're wanting to do. It's huge. Like I like that to me is taking the first step, right? It's almost like if you have an issue, right? Looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself you have X, Y, and Z issue, that's the first step, right, to
Yeah.
getting better, right? So I kind of relate it to that as well.
Yeah, and I think as you're saying it, I can kind of take the opposite of that and make it true as well. Is like when we get into the idea of self-talk, like so many
Yep.
people that struggle to get to the point that they want to get to, most of them struggle with negative self-talk, and like that
Yep.
negative self-talk has the same effect. Like if
Hmm.
you tell yourself and voice where you want to get to, that inspires action. If you tell yourself, the things that are wrong with you, the things that you struggle with, and the negative self-talk, that will affect the way you act. In
Exactly.
that same
Hmm.
way. So I think you can take that and use that in any scenario. People that struggle with negative self-talk, you can say, hey, this is what is inspiring those actions. It's the way you're talking
Yep.
to yourself and what you say you can and can't do.
Hmm.
So I think that's just a powerful concept to wrap your head around.
Oh yeah, man. It's almost like ripping off a Band-Aid,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes you have to that pivotal to you got to rip it off. You got to yell it out loud. You got to take that first step. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Or even when people do rip off that Band-Aid, not having a clear path or clear idea whatever the case is, sometimes you can just be stuck even in right where you're at, or just be worse. Right? I know you and I spoke about how a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur and all this stuff because they think it's cool.
Yep.
But a lot of times people do it without having some sort of at least an idea in mind, and next thing you know, they're back where they're at, or in a worse situation.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you and I are saying you gotta say X, Y, and Z out, just make sure that whatever you say out loud, whatever idea that you have, think about it a little bit, talk to someone about it, and then rip that Band-Aid off and do it. That's the thing. You got to just take that step, take that action step. Don't wait a day or two to take that action step, because now you already said it out loud, right? Now you got to hold yourself accountable. Now if you already had told somebody about your idea, now it's another person that's gonna ask you in a couple of weeks, oh, where are you at with X, Y, and Z, right? And so if you're taking 3 days to take that step, now you're back where you left off, where you were, or you're in a worse situation. So once you rip that Band-Aid off, you got to take that action step. Once you decide to cross over to that entrepreneur route, to work for, or whatever, it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, just that next step, whatever that is for you, you have to also come to a realization where it's game time.
Yeah.
It's game time. You can't take oh, well, okay, well, now I'm going to start in 3 days from now because I'm good. I'm going to make it happen. No, you got to take that action step as fast as possible. As possible.
Speak it and do it.
Yep. Speak it and do it. That's right.
Awesome. Well, dude, it's been awesome having this conversation. I hope you've taken as much out of it as I have, because I think there's a lot of little nuggets that I'll take away from it. I know a lot of people will as well. Especially as you start to kind of build this brand, I'd love for you to kind of let the people know where they can find you and follow along with what you're building, because I think it'll be really cool to have a ton of people tune in and kind of watch this journey that you're about to really take some full action on. Like you said, you just spoke about it. You bought the equipment, you have everything in place. Now it's time to take that action. So let the people know where they can follow along and see what you're doing.
Yeah, guys. So my IG is IRV_Correa. That's CORREA. You can find me on Instagram. Same name, same thing on Facebook as well. Stay tuned. I am going to be making a separate landing page as well for my whole agency stuff. Now, talking about it right now, I know it's a must. I know it's a need. But yeah, guys, IRV_Correa. That's my IG.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, leave a rating, leave a review. It helps more than you guys know. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Let's keep building this community and making the world a better place. So love you guys. We'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace.